Hello everybody, and eventually we are live. Little bit of a delay here. Thanks for hanging on in there. My name's Anthony Pepper. George Duncan is here. Gareth Evans is here. Bob Hunt is here. And we'll be back after we've heard Tiger Rag. Oh, fantastic stuff. Tiger Rag by the Duke Ellington Orchestra in 1929, I think. Ah, oh, bit hectic here. A little bit hectic at UL Towers this afternoon, but so pleased to be with you all. And, utterly delighted that Bob Hunt has agreed to be our special guest this week. Thank you so much, Bob. The wonderful trombonist, composer, arranger, band leader, etc. Bob Hunt. Welcome along.
Thank you.
So Bob selected a number of pieces of Ellingtonia for us this afternoon, and we started there with Tiger Rag. And the choices are selected around Ellingtonians that he has had the great pleasure and fortune to meet. And so tell us why we heard Tiger Rag there, Bob.
Well, Tiger Rag was... I picked Tiger Rag because of Barney Bigard, clarinet player, of course, and absolutely splendid chap. He was one of the first of the Ellington guys that I interviewed. With remember the little old cassette tapes?
Oh yes.
Yeah. Well, I interviewed Barney with a little cassette recorder, and he told me this was over in Culver City,
right?
And he was around his house, you know. He was a lovely, lovely guy, and he told me so many stories and so many things. But he, I don't know. I mean, the guy must have. Well, he didn't always remember everything exactly right. So, but we'll get to that in a little while. But the reason I picked Tiger Rag because Barney takes that whole thing over, doesn't he? I mean, he plays all over the first chorus, just on that typical Creole New Orleans clarinet style. You know, he just runs the damn show, really. And then on the second side of the record, because it was a double-sided 78, he takes another solo on the second side just before the end, and it starts down low. And that's, once again, it's just so bloody marvellous, basically. And then Tricky Sam comes in after Barney. But one of the things that I did want to speak before we played it, because the first trumpet solo after the opening, after Barney's first solo, was by Freddie Jenkins.
Right.
He was going to crop up later on. And Freddie Jenkins, I mean, if people who've listened to this, they probably know that anyway, but he goes, he plays this great solo, and just keep it in the noodle, because that's going to crop up again.
Right. So we'll just wait here while people wind the show back 6 minutes, and then they can play it. They can hear it again now.
Yeah.
And we'll just stay here while you do that. So, Bob, go on.
Oh yeah. On this same record of Tiger Rag, we've also got Bubba Miley, and this is not long before he got the Evo from the band.
Right.
And this is one of Bubba's last appearances, and he played blinding plunger, you know, solo trumpet player. I guess everybody who listens to this knows of it, so there's no point in explaining it. But yeah, and it's one of his last things with the band. You know, so it's great. You know, Carney's on it as well.
Yes,
well, he's only a youngster at the time, but Carney's there, and of course Johnny Hodges. He's only been in the band a year, and he plays a great chorus as well. So it's just one of those numbers that need to really be not analysed so much, because it's a string of solos, but yeah, it is the band at its best at that time. And they play this weird break in the last chorus. And I've heard bands get this very wrong because they actually quote a break from Snake Rag
Oh,
by
right.
King Oliver. And they go, ba 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 right? Which on Snake Rag, it's Joe Oliver and Louis.
Right.
Two corners. Ba ba ba, and then
Yes, yeah.
they're back into the last 16, no, the last 8 of Snake Rag. But on this record, they make that bap boop bap do that, which was the first 2 bars of the last bit of. It's getting all too complicated, but of Snake Rag, they actually make that into the break.
Yes.
So you get ba ba da ba ba da ba ba da do that.
Right.
Then so that break becomes 4 bars. Genius. But the thing is, all going back to King Oliver. Of course, Barney had been in King Oliver's band.
Ah, yes, yeah.
So, and Bubba, the whole plunger thing, and with the doorknob in the bell of the trumpet or cornet, and then the sink plunger over the top. That's King Oliver. It's all from King Oliver. That whole jungle thing that made Duke fantastic.
Right.
Is actually all from the whole damn thing is from King Oliver. And that same break, if you want to go back and listen to the Creeper,
right,
which is another Tiger Rag sort of derivative,
right?
Thing
yes, yes.
And they do the same damn thing in that. So, and anyone tries to tell you that Duke hadn't been listening or influenced by King Oliver, then you are not on the same planet.
Oh, that's fascinating. Yes, so King Oliver's that record 1923. I guess they would have been circulating certainly by 1926. So yeah.
This is 1929.
Yes. And so I mean, Barney was with the. What was the band? What was King Oliver's band called? Yeah, the Dixie Six. Thank you so much. Yes, and they recorded, of course, for I think, for Brunswick, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway,
okay.
For in the sort of 26, 27 period, didn't they? I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting, and so Barney, I mean, Rudy Jackson came over, didn't he, as well?
Well, see, that's the Creole Love Call connection. I didn't put Creole Love Call on the list, but I could have done it. In fact, I was thinking about that. But Creole Love Call is, in fact, a bit of pilfering.
It is.
Yeah.
Because that's a King Oliver tune. It's called Camp Meeting Blues.
Camp Meet.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. I did Rudy Jackson, he got into trouble over that, didn't he? I think.
Yeah, he did.
Because Oliver took out a suit against Ellington, and I think, in fact, I think it didn't actually amount to anything.
No, it didn't.
That they came to some sort of accommodation, but I think because of all the hassle that it caused Ellington, he gave him the heave-ho, actually.
Well, so this came up, actually, in the DES event that there was a couple of weeks ago. Hi, Ulf, hi, Bo, and everybody else, Brigitte, and everybody involved in that. So there's some dispute about exactly the chronology of the departure and so on. What was fascinating was that when Laurie Wright brought out his book on King Oliver, which was a reinvention of a previous book, a reedition of a previous book, it actually reproduces a letter that King Oliver wrote. There we go. That King Oliver wrote to. I don't know where my copy of that is, but yes. So King Oliver wrote a letter disapproval to RCA. Well, it wasn't RCA actually. It was Victor Talking Machine Company, wasn't it? Before RCA got involved. And according to Laurie Wright, because I haven't checked this, Oliver got the wrong copyright number in his letter, I think.
Yeah, I've heard this.
Which would have confused any lawyer who might have responded to the letter or anything, I guess. So I'm not sure that there was any resolution to that issue. What is interesting is that King Oliver, fairly shortly afterwards, not immediately, got a contract with Victor Records. I have to... oh, good grief. I'm not quite sure if that's before RCA took over or after, actually, because that happened in 29.
It's about the same time.
It's about the same time, yeah. I'd have to check exactly. But yes, yeah. So I don't know. I just wondered if there's a kind of almost a quid pro quo there of some sort, because it was a big record.
The other thing is, don't forget. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Don't forget, there's two distinct, different melodies.
Yes.
In Creole, of course. You know, you got do da do da do da do da,
and that's the one from Camp Meeting Blues.
But then you've got the other melody. Da 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 da. That tune.
Yes.
Now, which one was pilfered? Because they both appear in Camp Meeting Blues, but I think the do-da-do-da-do-da-do-da, which is the main part of Creole Local,
right,
was considered to be like common knowledge. That's not the phrase I'm looking for.
Oh, sort of. Yes, there's a word. There's a phrase
public
for it.
Domain, is it?
If you like.
Yes,
Yeah.
sort of. Yes, there is a public domain. Yeah, but for music, but
Yeah, that's it.
but there is another.
Yeah.
There is another phrase for material which is sort of yes, out there. So, oh, that's fascinating. Oh, right, okay.
But I think the big fuss was about the second thing,
Right.
which was the one that Rudy Jackson plays as the very high clarinet.
Right. Yes.
solo.
Yes.
Ba-da-da-da, da-da-da, ba-da-da-da,
Yes.
that one.
Okay.
I think that's the one that was where King Oliver made the fuss.
Oh, that is fascinating. Right. Yes.
Not the actual main tune that we think of as Creole Local.
Right. Yes. Because that's the thing that I think of with Camp Meeting Blues.
Yeah.
So I will have to go and have a long, good look, or perhaps listen to those two.
I could be wrong, but I think someone said that to me once.
Right. Okay.
It
Yes.
might even have been Barney, as we're talking about him.
Yes. So back to Barney, because yes, Rudy had gone.
No, but this is great. This is what it's all about.
Under whatever circumstances and so on. But it didn't stop Duke from quoting. I think you're allowed to quote pieces, aren't you, generally in music?
Joke made a living out of it. Duke. Joke. Duke made a living out of it. He quoted Christ all the time.
Oh, gosh, yes. So, yes, Barney. And so that, as you mentioned, so that's just before, so that's as at the end of, it's just in the last few weeks of Bubba Miley being in the band. And Cootie comes in very soon afterwards. Is that right? I think that's right.
Right. We'll talk about
We'll get on to that
later.
We'll get on to him. Yes. Right. Okay.
Right.
Let's stick with Barney for the moment. So okay. Where shall we go next, musically, Bob?
Well, do you want? I mean, how far do we want to stick to this list of mine?
Oh, as closely as you like.
How long is the show supposed to be?
Well, when do you have to leave?
I don't know.
It's no. Let's not worry about it at the moment. Let's just play some more music.
All right. Well, the next number that I've put on the list is Wall Street Wail. Do you want me to talk about it before or after?
If you've got anything that you'd like the listener to
well, in
pull
fact,
out,
this is the
mention it, and then
when I met Barney at his place in Los Angeles, It's Culliver City, actually. And he told me some lovely stories about the old days. Some great stories. And he said, and I think most of our listeners will have heard the thing about they didn't have any music. And Duke just would sit at the piano and play a line, you know, like that. You play that, and then you play another line, and you play that, and this sort of bullshit. He meant it. I mean, that's what he told me, and that is what. Because this, what you must remember is this is when I was doing my master's degree, and this is a long time ago now. And this is before we knew about the Smithsonian Institute and its collection of Ellington's manuscripts.
What sort of date? What sort of date are we talking about, Bob?
What, for me?
Yes.
Mid-70s.
Right. Yes.
So Barney would give it all that and say that. But once again, bear that in mind, because that's going to come back.
Right.
But this was about the music, and they didn't have. They just did. Duke just said this, that. You play this, you play that, and that. That's how they did it, apparently. But Wall Street Wild, this number, I've chosen this number in particular because one of Barney's stories, which particularly appealed to me, was about Joe Nanton, trombone player, Ricky Sam, who I've made a whole career, if you like, of trying to do the best I possibly can.
Oh, Bob, you're breaking up slightly.
To emulate.
Oh dear.
Nanton.
So, hello, Bob. Sorry, say that last part again because you were breaking up.
I said I've done in my career. I've done the best I can to emulate Joe Nanton.
I tell you what.
And so this is why Barney's story. This one of Ricky Sam was of such. What's the problem?
You are breaking up, and we didn't catch that last part there. Shall we play this track and then see if we can do anything about that? I'm not sure that we'll be able to, but we'll have a think. So here is Wall Street Whale. Right, okay. Communication's a little bit difficult with Bob there. It is, of course, live. What I'm going to do, actually, we might cut out of this quickly if we sort out the technical problems, is to go back and play Tiger Rag again, because Bob did mention certain things about that, which he did want to you to have in your mind while you were listening to it. So while we fiddle around with the knobs and see if we can get Bob back again, let's go back and hear Tiger Rag. lag again there. So Bob Hunt is kind of still with us. Bob, hello there. Hello?
Hello, mate.
Hello, Bob. So we're on.
Yes.
Yes, hello there. So I've got Bob on the telephone here because Zoom is letting us down. So Bob, before we lost you, you were telling us about the story that Barney gave to you about the fact that Duke had little or no music, and then we lost you at that point.
Right. Well, that was that story. He said about he used to tell them what to play. You know, play it on the piano, play a line on the piano, and they said, you play that line. And then the guy would sort of play it. And what a stupid way to get on. I mean, how could they have played the things they did? It would take forever and a day just to get one number together.
Sure.
But anyway, that is what Barney said. So, this is in the days before we knew about the Smithsonian and all the music that is there.
Right, yes.
Didn't know that then.
No.
So
well, it wouldn't have been there then, in fact, because it would
exactly, because Mercer was. We all know about all that. So, for my purposes, I had to sort of swallow that and say, well, and not believe it, but we'll come to that later.
Right.
Because Barney does kind of shoot himself in the foot. But Wall Street Whale, which is the next number, I picked this one because it's another Tiger Rag thing.
Yes.
And Barney told me this story about Tricky Sam, trombone player, who I've spent most of my career trying to emulate. And he had the little a tight mute inside the trombone belt and a plunger outside. And very often he would keep the whole thing closed on the belt. So you've got to stick a lot of air through that horn to make any noise. You've got to push the air through in a large way. Barney used to. I think that will be the story where there's one day.
Anthony, this is.
Yes, so Bob.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Your voice has gone quiet over the phone.
Well, I can't explain why.
Oh, that's better.
Well, I haven't moved a damn thing.
Oh, this technology, I tell you. So, sorry, say again about the plunger and so on.
So you've got a little trumpet inside the bell of the trombone,
right?
And then a rubber plunger, like Bubba did, but obviously a big one, so it's a toilet plunger. You got that outside the bell, doing the wah-wah thing or the yah-yah, whatever. Tricky wasn't doing yah-yah at this time, but never mind. He used to do the thing, and he'd make this sound with the plunger tight to the bell, closed. Tight.
Right. Yes.
And he's got the little mute inside as well. So the actual, to make any noise come out that the people could hear, you've got to put one heck of a lot of air through that instrument. A lot of air. You've got to blow your head off.
Right.
To get any noise out of it. It's a good noise, but it's not very loud. And this is in the days before microphones, you see. So in order to be heard, Nansen had to really give it one, as we would say now. Now, this Wall Street Whale is a great example because of Nansen doing that, because Barney said to me that Tricky Sammy said he had to blow so loud or so hard one night that and Barney's words were, he blew the back out of the horn, meaning the tuning slide is behind your head. It's like that's the way you tune a trombone. There's a little slide at the back that you can. That's where you can tune it. And Tricky was putting so much pressure into the trombone with the mute that the slide at the back shot off and because that was the end of that. But it brought the audience thought it was a joke, and it was a big round of applause. But the sound that caused that to happen is what you hear Tricky Sam do in Wall Street Wow at towards the end. He's
Let's hear that.
you've also got fantastic Barney Bigard in a low register. In fact, it's Tricky Sam who follows Bigard with that really tight mute thing, and it's this sort of sound that caused that event to happen when he blew so hard that he blew the tuning slide out. Fantastic.
Okay, still some significant difficulty with the old Zoom here. So Bob's still on the phone. So we just heard Wall Street Whale there. So Bob, tell us about the next piece.
Who, me?
Yes.
Oh, it was Jungle Nights, didn't it?
Yes, that's right, yes.
Yeah. Well, you see, I lost my thread now with my stories.
So we just got to the the idea that it was not really.
No, I know about that. But oh yeah, I'm now introducing Jungle Nights. Now this, of course, it features Nanton again with that same plunger thing that we were talking about.
Sure.
But Miley has just left, and so. Although Cootie Williams is present, it's Freddie Jenkins who plays the solos. And that's interesting. And can you hear me?
Yes, indeed.
All right. That's interesting because we'll come back to that when we talk about Cootie, if we ever get that far. But it's Freddie Jenkins who's doing the muted stuff here, and great stuff from Big Lad again, of course, and Johnny Hodges, who's a new boy as well.
Yes.
And Freddie Jenkins at the end, he's doing the sort of thing that you would associate with Armstrong.
Right.
As I say, we'll come back to Freddie Jenkins because he's one of the guys that I had the great fortune to meet. But yeah, Big Ard is on fine form on this, and it's called Jungle Nights in Harlem.
Jungle Nights in Harlem, and maybe communications have been re-established over Zoom. Bob, are you there? We can see you. Hopefully you're there.
I can see me as well.
And
can you hear me?
We can hear you as well. So we're on. So tell us about Jungle Nights then. Well, you did already, actually, didn't you? Freddie Jenkins featured and Barney.
Well, yeah. We're still sort of talking about Barney, really, but there's a fantastic bit of Barney Big on in that way. There's that great big, all that stick. Fantastic. Big Arda is best. But the thing I originally said when we were listening to it is that this was straight after, or pretty soon after, Cootie had joined the band. Now, of course, Cootie was brought in ostensibly to replace Bubba Miley. But plunger guy. But it's Freddie Jenkins who's the main man on this record, and he is for quite a while. And that's an interesting thing. Cootie didn't just sort of leap straight in and do the plunger thing.
So
and
he
the
assumed,
fancy solos. It was Freddie Jenkins.
he assumed the role, didn't he, eventually? But
Yeah, eventually, but
Yeah.
not the thing.
Yeah, I think
You read about
quite
stuff,
actually.
and then Bubba Marley left the band, and he was replaced by Cootie Williams, which is it's sort of true, but it didn't work quite like that.
So Duke
Because
lost the trumpeter, gained a trumpeter, but they didn't fulfil the same role exactly to begin with.
Start with.
And then Cootie got lessons from Tricky. Is that how that worked?
Exactly. But what happened was Cootie, it took him a little while, but he suddenly, and this is what Cootie said to me himself. I was going to say this in the bit about Cootie, but never mind. Cootie said to me, he said, I suddenly realised the reason I was there. You know, I was there to replace Miley.
Right.
And Cootie had always considered himself an Armstrong man, Louis Armstrong. And he suddenly, and that's what he said to me. He says, I suddenly realised that I was replacing Miley. And he had no reference, no terms of reference except for Tricky Sam. So he listened to it, and Tricky Sam taught Cootie, basically. I'm not saying they sat down and had lessons and all that shit, but he got it from Tricky Sam. And that's very, yeah. And so then it was then that Cootie became the primary plunger or growl soloist in the band.
Yes, from this period, you've got Echoes of the Jungle, which is a Cootie composition, isn't it? And that's there's a
little bit later,
very Armstrong-esque in that, isn't there? I think
A couple of years later, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what Cootie was. He was an Armstrong man. And well, that's it. Yeah. So Freddie Jenkins was the hot man in that interim period after Bubba and before Cootie suddenly, like the penny dropped or something.
Yes, right. So Cootie came into the band in February or March 29.
29.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Cootie, 29, yeah.
And I'm just having a quick look through the sessions here. There's one session with 2 trumpets, and then Cootie appears. Yes, so Bubba's last session is in January. It's a session after Tiger Rag that we heard earlier.
Yeah,
he was missing a few, wasn't he? I think at the end.
That's basically why he got the sack.
Yeah.
And then Cootie comes in, but doesn't immediately. I assume because hang on.
No, Cootie doesn't do any plunger stuff for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, who was it? Similarly, Lawrence Brown was always reluctant to use the plunger, wasn't he? I mean, he did eventually, but
I didn't have Lawrence on my list of things, but she could go on for all. Lawrence said to me that he hated the plunger. He took it on because nobody else would. This is in the 60s.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And Lawrence said to me, he said, because he knew I was a trombone player. And he said to me, he says, "So you play lead? You play lead trombone?" And I said, "Yeah, if I'm required to, you know." And he says, "Well, don't." He said, "Leave that plunger alone, because it will just mess your lips and you won't be able to play lead."
Right.
I'm not quite sure what he meant by that, because I mean I'm 60 odd now, and I've made a career out of playing with the plunger and the mute, Tricky Sam style, and I have played lead as well. So ever made
So,
any.
Bob, what do you need to do differently? Because I'm a non-musician. But if as a trombone player, if you're playing with a plunger, what do you do differently with your lip than if you're playing straight? Then is there a difference?
Straight? What do you mean by straight?
Well, without the plunger in it.
Oh well, if you just play the trombone,
Yeah.
well, you just play the trombone. You got the mutes. Well, for a start, you've got one of these shoved up inside the bell with the horn. With the horn. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got one of these toilet plunger over the bell. So in bell, outside bell. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a lot of pressure back on you.
Uh-huh.
There's the only way the sound comes out, unless you do that, is if you squeeze it.
Mm-hmm.
With a thumb, because it's around the other side, so you can't see it. But yeah, you just the trombone is now back to front, but squeeze like that, so the sound comes out here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot more effort and a lot.
There's a lot more effort and
pressure through your whole system.
Oh, it can mess you up.
Yeah.
And so Tricky Sam himself, Joe Nansen, Tricky Sam, he said there was, I don't know, I mean, obviously, I never met the guy. I wish I had, but I never met the guy. He said in an interview that the plunger messes you up. And so if you've been doing it for as long as I have, that's all you can do, and you're good for nothing else. That's what he said.
But you haven't found that necessarily.
No, I haven't. No.
I mean, Lawrence probably just didn't really enjoy it very much.
He didn't. He hated it.
But Duke had a role in the band, a chair in the band, as it were, for that role.
Only briefly.
Only
briefly, because there was obviously Terry Glenn, Quentin Jackson, and then when Lawrence was back, when he came back to the band, there was a guy called Booty Wood.
Oh yeah,
who was pretty good on the plunger, but it sort of without when Booty before and after Booty, it was Lawrence's gig really, because someone had to do it, although he hated it, and to be honest, he wasn't very good at it, but he did it, God bless him.
No, well, I mean, I wouldn't want to mess with the sound that Lawrence Brown got when he was being Lawrence Brown myself, but there we are.
Lawrence Brown was great at being Lawrence Brown.
But,
he should have left Tricky Sam alone, But anyway, never mind.
Right, okay. So, where did we get to? We've heard Drunken Nights in Harlem, 1930.
Yeah.
Moving on
So,
to...
yeah, what I was going to do, because we've lost the plot now, haven't we, really? But we were talking about Bigard and his business about Duke saying, I'll give you this note and that note, and you play this and you play, which I thought was a load of crap. So, and then you get this number, you see, which is from 1933. It's called Daybreak Express. Now, I'd like to see Duke give this one out, one note here, and you listen to it.
Oh, hang on. Don't they... You know the film, Record Making with Duke Ellington?
Yeah.
I mean, Duke is kind of seen in that, almost saying what you've just
You're
said
the
there.
train whistle, and you're the...
as
bullshit, man.
they are allegedly practicing Daybreak Express, I think.
It's bullshit.
And
It's
then
a film.
and then he records "Oh Babe" instead, which is a different piece, somewhat different piece. But anyway, okay, let's
The
have
Daybreak Express. So play this, right?
Yes.
And then I'll tell you what Barney Bigard said after I played it to him.
Oh, great. Daybreak Express, the Duke Ellington Orchestra in 1933. Bob.
Indeed.
So Bob and Gareth were just chatting there. What was the upshot of that in terms of comparing the recollections of Barney Bigard?
Well,
exactly
I'll read the. Shall I just read the bit from the autobiography?
Yes, please, yeah.
Just and then Bob can go into the first-hand account. Yeah, this is what Bigard has written in, as luck would have it, I got this for my birthday recently, all the way from Stockport Library. It came from originally, but yeah, I've got it now, and yeah, I'd really recommend it. Actually, really kind of interesting, really sort of candid. He's very generous about Duke, which not all of the members of the band were. This is from chapter 11, which is everybody in the band knew they were working with a genius, which tells you what he thinks of him. This is the paragraph about specifically Daybreak Express. He would hear things and start to write even without a piano, which is what Bob was sort of talking about. That's where the number Daybreak Express came from. The Southern engineers on the railroad, they used to have a fireman that would blow the whistle on the train. We'd be up all night gambling, and we'd hear the whistle blow, and we went over a crossing. Duke would hear all the same things. The only difference was we were playing poker, and he was writing music about that whistling. He somehow got the effect of the train into the music. So that's the account in the autobiography.
Yes, right. Doesn't mention about Tiger Rag.
No, he doesn't. No.
Well, I mean, apart from the fancy introduction, it is Tiger Rag again. But,
and with the conception of the break at the end, I guess.
That's Freddie.
Freddie Jenkins again, yes.
Well, Freddie's doing all the Armstrong thing, you know. Bow, 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 and all that. You know, it's Freddie Jenkins doing all that.
I suppose Barney.
As I was saying before, Freddie Jenkins was there to do the showman stuff. You know, there's a bow, bow.
Barney did manage to get his name onto Mood Indigo, didn't he? Eventually.
Bigard did.
Yes, Bigard, yes. One of the side men who managed to actually do that for pieces where they felt that.
Oh no, there's nothing. No, that's not true.
Go on.
Arthur Wetzel got credit on Misty Morning. Harry Carney got credit on Rockin' in Rhythm.
Oh, hang on. Hang on a second though, because Mood Indigo initially didn't have that credit.
It didn't, yeah.
So Barney managed to get it added, as opposed to it just appearing originally. You know, if I can put it like that. So there were pieces that in the Ellington canon, sidemen felt they needed, they should have received that credit, and they didn't. But Barney insisted, and eventually got his name. But it was added later. It wasn't added. It wasn't on there originally.
So am I allowed to tell my story?
Oh, please.
Not about who wrote this and who wrote that and anything else. Supposed to be talking about Barney Bigard.
Sure.
And on that, when I went to see him in Colton, yeah, and he'd said about this, play this, and play that, and all that, just be all talked about. And now what in it what's it saying? Said crap. I said to Barney, I played him that record, Daybreak Express. I played him saying exactly that one. And I said, so are you telling me that he just told you what to play note by note and phrase by phrase, and you really telling me that? And Barney said, oh no, we had music. you had music. And then he says, oh, yeah, we always had music. Even in the Cotton Club days, we had music. Which meant that whole taped interview about how much music was there was wiped out. Because he said there was never any music. He just did it. And then I played him that number, and suddenly we always had music. Always had music.
Was it Teasol? What was the copyist, wasn't he? Originally, I think was he the first one who did that for the band? I think.
Yeah. Yes. Was the copyist? Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was, and Tom Whaley took over in 1940 as copyist.
So in the early days, did Ellington write out the parts?
Yes.
I suppose he must have done.
He did.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm just wondering if Duke, perhaps in rehearsals or just in kind of, I don't know if they had formal rehearsals, honestly, but perhaps before the gigs or before their appearances or whatever, he would give the band lines to play and things, and while he was still working out a composition, I don't know.
They had parts. They had sheet music. They had,
and then
just like any other band of any other time, they
sure.
played written arrangements.
I'm just wondering if before they actually appeared as fully written arrangements, if Duke would have had, an experience. Perhaps, Barney is conflating experiences of, appearing initially, as it were, with a later, finished actual performance and so on, because the situation might well be different when the band is rehearsing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
From when they're actually, on. Because when they were on, of course, I mean, it was very important. They wouldn't have wanted to be messing about, would they? And of course, even from the Cotton Club, there were broadcasts. So the band was very much in the spotlight, in the public spotlight.
But that was later, though. The Cotton Club broadcasters from 37, 38. That's when they returned. It's not even the same.
Oh.
But never mind. Yeah.
No, there were broadcasts from the actual Cotton Club, the original Cotton Club.
Oh yeah, but there's nothing that survives.
No, but the band would have known that they would have been in the spotlight. I'm sure that by that time they'd already been quite experienced. So I imagine that they were, fairly well polished. I've imagined. There's unfortunately there are no recordings that we know of the band live from that time.
No.
But anyway, yeah. So all right, okay. So the Barney, the wonderful Barney Bigard. Where are we on our list of tracks now?
Well, the next one we've got on the list is June. I only put this on because when I went and saw him in his house and everything, this was his favourite tune.
Right.
And his favourite recording.
Goodness.
It's not mine, but it was Barney's favourite, and he said this was my favourite tune. It's got Juan Tizol on valve trombone playing it, and it's going into sort of a little sort of a rumbery thing, and then it's back to normal after that. But it's great, it's good. And Barney's great on it. But this apparently was Barney's favourite recording that he did with Duke.
I have a feeling, this is just coming back to me now, this is one of the pieces which wasn't in fact released originally, and only came out either later or in Britain.
I don't know.
While we hear it, I'll do a tiny amount of research on that and see if I can come up with something more definite. But here is
recorded in 1941.
41. And ironically, in September of 1941, not June.
Yeah.
June from 1941, the Barney Brigade led small group from the Ellington Orchestra with Lawrence Brown. And one of the pieces which I believe was not released in America on 17th, or at least not originally, but came out over here, I think, possibly. The same was true, if I'm not mistaken, with Menelik and another piece for Paul Bubba from the Exterior session in 1941 as well. So there were those three pieces, but also possibly one other piece from that Barney Brigade session. But for some reason were held. They were released eventually or abroad, but not by Bluebird. But composition by Barney Brigade there.
I don't know.
So, right. Okay, Zoom is just about holding together.
This next one, can we miss that?
Yes,
Can we miss the next one?
we can. No problems.
Because I'd like to go on to my Freddie Jenkins story.
Oh yes, please do. So that was Barney Brigade, and wonderful to have met him, of course. But I don't know, even perhaps a rarer privilege, possibly, to meet Freddie Jenkins.
Yeah. Well, I was still at university, and what the hell happened there?
I don't
Can you hear
know. You're still here. Your phone probably buzzed with a notification of
It
some
did.
sort. But don't worry
Can you
about
hear
it.
me though?
Yes, we can. Move on. Yes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah. Anyway, I was at university, and I went into a pub, believe it or not, and I'm up at the bar, getting myself a drink, and I look over there, and there's this little black bloke, obviously with his wife, quite elderly sort of chap. This is the centre of Birmingham. This is we're talking about now, and so I went over, introduced myself, and I said, "What you doing over here? What on holiday or something?" And the bloke said, well, as soon as he opened his mouth, he's American, so and he said, no, my wife and I were over here. I came over to England in 1933. I played in a band, and we're just, before we get too old, I'll come back to visit the places that we went to when I came over. So my brain thinks as little black bloke in a band in England in 1933. I said to the guy, I said, "You're Freddie Jenkins, aren't you?" And the little fella, he said, "How do you know my name? How do you know my name?" I said, "Well, you must be. You're not Katie Williams, you're not Artie Wetzel. You're Freddie Jenkins." And of course, that was it. We were mates for life.
Oh, fantastic. Amazing.
And he, at one point, he said, "You know more about me than I do." Marvellous. What a great little fella. Only little fella. And crikey, I spent the whole afternoon with him. And he told me, see the stories, never mind this one show, even Freddie Jenkins's stories could go on forever and ever and ever. There you are. What a fantastic little chap. But as I said earlier on in this program, Freddie was, when he was in the band, he was after Bubba had been sacked, Freddie was the hot man. Arthur Wetzel was the lead trumpet player, straight guy, good jazz player as well. But anyway, never mind. But Jenkins was the hot man, and Williams was just, at that point, he really hadn't figured out what his job was. So Jenkins and anyway, Freddie's, he was a big Louis Armstrong fan, and Louis Armstrong had a big hit, massive hit with the old pop song called "When You're Smiling." When you're smiling, when you're smiling, you know the thing.
Mm.
And Louis had a big hit with his tops, and he took it up. Louis took it up the octave. Now it's all a bit, you know, fantastic. And so Duke made the record of it with when it was Irving Mills, the promoter, who made Duke do it. And in fact, Irving Mills is the guy singing on the record. And because Freddie being in the hot seat, as it were, he has to do the Louis thing. And Freddie said to me, the way you have to do this when you're smiling. And I forget his very words now. I wish I could remember it. But anyway, they made the first record of it, and poor old Freddie, he didn't quite make it, and it's all too clear on the first recording. And Freddie said to me, he said, "I remember when the record finished, I was so glad it was over." So this is it. This is the Freddie's first go or attempt at When You're Smiling.
Be happy again and keep on smiling, 'cause when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you.
Freddie Jenkins there, and the first version of When You're Smiling.
Freddie said that he was so glad that one was over.
Yeah. But there's more. There's more When You're Smiling.
Well, this is a few weeks later, and Freddie had got it together a bit by this time. And bless him. You just have to love the guy. But the thing is, you feel sorry for him, because even on this version, he gets all the way through it and doesn't split a note. Everything. And he gets that last note. Ba, ba, da, 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 da. So, I got to feel sorry for him, haven't you? He never got it right on any recording he ever made. Bless him.
Here we go then. When You're Smiling. Hopefully.
When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain, so stop your sighing. Be happy again and keep on smiling, 'cause when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you.
From the second session where they recorded When You're Smiling, Freddie Jenkins, trumpet, and but also Kitty Williams and Johnny Hodges, you were mentioning then, Johnny and Hodges towards the end as well, with Irving Mills fancying himself there, not doing a not an Armstrong-esque vocal though. Not trying to imitate Louis there. But yeah, so I was just thinking that much later in the band, Money Johnson would take on the role of Louis Armstrong, and he also sang, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
As well. Even after Armstrong's demise, I think, or around that time anyway. Ah, right, okay, lovely. And you met him. Just it's an extraordinary thing, isn't it? Just to you go to a pub in Birmingham and you meet an ex-Ellingtonian. Yeah.
Yeah, I was walked into this pub in Birmingham.
Walked into a pub and met Freddie Jenkins and his wife as well.
Yeah.
Yes, extraordinary.
Yeah, bless her, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Good grief.
And what, yeah.
Oh, right.
I mean, it's not. I didn't even seek him out. You know, it was just.
No, I mean it's just. So what's roughly when would that have been, year wise? You were at uni, so a while ago.
Early 70s. 70, 74, 75, I don't know, can't remember.
And then Little Posy was recorded after he'd left the band, as a kind of remembrance of him being in the band.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, I mean, can you jump forward on your thing?
Certainly.
Because I tell you what, we're talking about Freddie Jenkins, and we go forward to Bragging in Brass.
Oh, yes.
Right. Now, Freddie has long left the band by now. But if our listeners would care to go back to Tiger Rag at the start of our show and listen to Freddie Jenkins's trumpet solo on that, and he goes stuff like that. Now, that little Freddie Jenkins trumpet solo that he played back in 1929 on Tiger Rag was so set in Duke's band that when Duke made the chart and the arrangement of a thing called Bragging in Brass, the first chorus of the trumpets, the three trumpets, the three of them, all muted, play Freddie Jenkins's solo in harmony. Now, what a bloody tribute is that to Freddie Jenkins?
So is Freddie on this? Is he in the band still? Because he goes away in 30. I think it might be 34, and then he comes back. In
yeah, but he's not.
So
the two stars in this is Cootie. It's Rex Stewart, and then Cootie does the highs.
Let's hear.
Is at the end.
Let's hear Bragging in Brass.
But it's Freddie's solo that they harmonise.
Dragging in brass there. Duke in 1938, in March 1938. Oh gosh, and by the way, the take that we got over here was an alternative take for some reason. So there were 2 takes issued, and I'm not sure.
There's 3 actually, I think, but
I'm not sure the first take was actually released over here. I'd have to check that.
well, anyway.
But the one that we got on 78
Good though, innit?
was a different take. But anyway, Bragging in Brass there by Duke, but by way of Tiger Rag and Freddie Jenkins. Bob, where shall we go now?
Freddie.
Oh, sorry, you're breaking up again.
I said, do we have a time consideration?
We have a time consideration, but I don't like to cut us off too abruptly. And we did, obviously for various reasons, start a little bit late, and then we had a technical problem. So let's not worry about it at the moment.
I mean, do you want to jump to QT or go to Greer?
Well, later on in our lives, hopefully we can have you back, so we don't have to do everything today. We are planning, by the way, just as a little service note here, to take probably much of the summer off UL. So we've got this program. So this program and next week's program, when we've got the wonderful Dal Sherman as guest and Frank Griffith will be back. Those will be the last, I think, probably regular programs for the moment. So just to let our audience know.
Okay, buddy.
But then later on, hopefully, we'll be doing some things late, as I say, perhaps later in the autumn. I don't know if they're going to be lockdown related. Hopefully not, but I certainly hope that over the next few weeks and months, we'll be able to be a little bit more open in general. And so, yes, in general, I think it's fair to say that the people behind UL are quite looking forward to having a bit of a break. But beyond that, we certainly hope that Bob will come back. So shall we do some more Cootie?
Well, let's go straight to Cootie then. We'll miss out Sonny Greer. I've got some good Sonny Greer stories. But we'll save them for another program. Okay, well, let's... Once Cootie had got the idea or the message that he was supposed to replace Bubba Miley, he did it better than anybody on this planet could have done it. And that's a fact. Cootie was number one. And also my mentor, he's my teacher. Cootie that's why I left him to last. Cootie was, he's my main man. But I think we need to hear Delta Mood, because this is just Cootie at his absolute best. And no one better. No wonder. Here we go.
Yes, here we go. The Cootie Williams, small group from the Duke Ellington Orchestra and Delta Mood. And you mentioned about the bass saxophone there.
Yeah, that's, Otto Hardwick. Otto Hardwick had been with Duke since the very beginning, the Washingtonians and all that. And Otto Hardwick had been Duke's lead alto player for most of the band's time, including when Hodges was in the band. A lot of people think that Hodges was lead alto. No, he wasn't. It was Otto Hardwick. Otto was the lead player for most of that stuff in the 40s. Not Johnny. Which you can find out if you look at the parts from the Smithsonian and that. Anyway, never mind about that. But Otto on that record, he's playing the bloody bass saxophone. Huge, great damn thing. Anyway, it's not many records have been playing it on with Ellington, but there it is, and it's great. But he doesn't play it like a bass. He actually plays a saxophone. Plays it like a saxophone. Yeah, Otto Hardwick, fantastic. I never met him, but wish I had.
But when did you meet Cootie?
Great player.
So when did you have the pleasure of meeting Cootie Williams?
Wow, well, Cootie Williams. What can I say about Cootie? Put me light on. I'll turn it up again. Cootie Williams, he was my main man. I sought him out when I was youngest sort of lad. All those years ago. He lived in Queens, New York. He lived in the borough of Queens. And I just, well, like I met Barney and all the other guys I've talked about. Lawrence Brown, we haven't mentioned, but I met him. I saw a lot of the guys, Proco. I mean, you got to keep, otherwise this program could go on for years.
Well,
but Cootie is special to me because he taught me about the plunger. And Tricky Sam taught Cootie. And Cootie taught me. So there's a big link there.
There's a lineage.
Yeah, there is. There's a lineage. I mean, no one really recognizes the fact, but there it is. It's a fact. And of course, then it's a thing I said I wouldn't talk about Mother Ellington's band, and I don't really want to talk about Mother Ellington's band because for various reasons. Anyway, we've been through that. But Cootie, yeah, what I mean, fantastic bloke, and my mentor. I mean, I've got a whole load of stuff that we could play, but I guess we're running out of time. But what can I say about Cootie Williams except that he was my main man?
Well, to those of us who are perhaps
And
only slightly,
and when he joined Duke's band, as I've said earlier on, he didn't realise he was supposed to replace Bob Marley. He didn't know that. He didn't realise that. But what a way to do it! You know, you just listen to Delta Mood. I mean, Christ, that's even better than Bubba. No? And but Cootie was, I mean, his main man was. He was really pissed off with Cat Anderson because Cat could play higher than Cootie. You know, Cootie didn't really like that. Trumpet players, you know. Someone on Facebook, but they set of things. You know, what's like you've got like a collection of this or a collection of that or the other thing, and for trumpet players, I said a contest of trumpet players.
Oh, a collective noun.
And that's about right.
Right.
They're always in a con. Trumpet players, doggers they are. But anyway, Cootie and Cat, they didn't get on. So they call them the bookends because they,
Right.
you know, Cat had to sit this side and Cootie with that side. The other two or three would be after. Yeah, they didn't like each other. Or rather, it wasn't so much Cat, but Cootie just. Bless him, I loved the guy.
Did Cootie really enjoy his second stint with the band? Was it?
Yeah, that's when I knew him, obviously.
But he was reasonably happy to be there, was he? You know, in terms of his career and everything.
Oh yeah,
because he
absolutely
he had 20 years off, didn't he? You know, having
a go band,
leading his own group. Yeah, that's right. Well, it's his own orchestra.
Yeah, his own band.
Yes, after very briefly being with Benny Goodman. Yeah.
Well, that's why he left in the first place.
But he wasn't with Goodman for very
that
long.
didn't
Only
last
about
for long.
no,
Only
only
didn't.
about a year or so. I'm not sure exactly
Yeah,
how long.
that's right.
Yes.
Well, he was playing R&B for a bit, wasn't he? Or almost.
That's
sort of,
right.
When he was
That's right.
at the end of
Once
his
the big
his band.
band. Hey?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Just, I
Once
think
the big band.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
in search of popularity,
There was
he
one-
was, R&B was sort of coming in at the end of his own band and
Yeah.
crossover. Yeah.
There is one record.
That's right.
Oh, good grief. Which I can't actually remember what it is now. I'll look it up. Which was actually was it? Hang on a second. Let's have a quick peek at this. I want to see whether it actually is this one. Oh, that's right. Yes. There's one record that is actually quite common in Britain. It was obviously fairly popular here by Cootie Williams Orchestra, and they did West End Blues and G-Men. Yes. On Regal's Honophone, or sometimes pronounced Zonophone.
I'll get the old record collectors out.
Yes, no, it's just that particular record. Used to, I don't suppose any 78s are that common now, but it used to be a fairly common record to find. Here, yes, just under his own name, you know.
Bob, how did Cootie Williams get his name on Round Midnight? Do you know that? Because he's got a composer credit for that, hasn't he?
They made it up.
How do you mean? I think isn't his name's on Round Midnight, isn't it? Cootie Williams, I think. Yeah.
Well, as far as I know, didn't he sort of make the tune up?
So,
Did he?
I have a feeling this came up recently in one of the things that there was. There's a section of Round Midnight which isn't the section that's normal, or it isn't. It is a section which is not normally played, which I think maybe, yes, Cootie's piece. I'm not sure that Mostly gets a credit for it. I'm not sure if it doesn't play. If
I don't know.
If they don't play
Question,
that section. But yes, so he kicked around for quite a bit, but then returned to the ranks of Ellingtonia. I think that's right, in the early 60s, isn't he?
61, I think. Well, yeah.
So yeah,
62.
It was about 20. It was about 20 years or so. Yeah. As I say, if you're lucky, you get 20 years off. And so, what shall we hear?
Nice Cootie to me, because it's got the Armstrong thing, but it's so Cootie. Do you know what I mean?
I do.
Yeah, I think Portrait of Louis Armstrong from the New Orleans Suite.
Portrait, but
1970.
not a complete impersonation.
Well, it's not. No.
Sorry,
It's
Bob.
just Cootie.
You broke up there. Right. Yes. Let's hear Portrait
It's
of Louis
just
Armstrong.
Cootie.
Portrait of Louis Armstrong. Cootie Williams from the Orleans Suite. Goodness me. So, Bob, we have come nearly to the end, to our last piece. What more is there to say about Cootie then?
What more can I say about Cootie? I haven't even started.
Okay.
Cootie Williams, Cootie. Is what he said to his dad when he came back from his first time here in a brass band. And he said, Cootie. And that's why he's called Cootie. And also, just as an aside to all of you blokes in the Ellington Society and everything else, Cootie spelled his name with a Y, not I-E.
Oh, really? Cooty?
Exactly.
We're back in Jimmy Blanton territory.
So Jimmy Blanton's given up his Y and given it to Cootie Williams. Oh, fascinating. Yes, that has not yet reached most of the discographies. I'll put it like that.
No, it hasn't. It doesn't bother me.
Did it bother him?
But if you look on any of Duke's scores, the manuscripts,
Yes.
it's always a Y.
Oh, really? Gosh.
Yeah.
You know what? That's one little bit of information that I haven't noticed anybody mention or noticed for myself. Well, fascinating.
Well, I only mentioned it because I knew the guy.
Right. Just to slip in here, just to shoehorn in, as I say, we will be back next week. But tomorrow night, I believe, the Duke Ellington Society, which is based in New York, so the New York Ellington Society, have John Hassey from the Smithsonian, and he'll be no doubt relating over Zoom how the Smithsonian acquired the Duke Ellington collection from Mercer. So, if you wanted to enjoy that, I think it's tomorrow night. I hope it is. My best suggestion is to go onto Facebook and, if you're not already, join the Duke Ellington Society group. That's not us, and it's not even. I don't think it's the New York Society. It's a Facebook group. And then search out Marilyn Lester, because I think she's posted details on Facebook about that. It may also be on their website for all I know as well, but that's I think that's tomorrow night. Okay, so Bob, what should we finish with then?
Well, Cootie Williams, of course, and this is it's a gig. It's a live gig from the Cotton Club, but not the old Cotton Club from Ellington.
Not the
it's the Ellington band, but it's just 38.
Yeah.
So it's when they went back, and it's Cootie's small band from. It's Cootie and Tricky Sam and Carney Hodges. Yeah, I think that's it.
Sure.
And Hodges on soprano.
Right.
And it's called, you know what it's called. 17th of April, 1938. And it's downtown uproar.
Oh, yeah, well, the Cotton Club had moved downtown from up in Harlem, hadn't it? So, yeah. Okay. So, as I was about to say...
And they just play the arse off it.
As I was about to say, from those of us who are perhaps fractionally younger, it is wonderful to have recollections and reminiscences from people who were, genuinely fortunate enough, not perhaps only to see Ellington or Ellington musicians, but to meet with them and talk with them. So, Bob, thank you so much for bearing with us this afternoon and for being here.
Pleasure.
So appreciated. It really is, and I'm sure all our listeners appreciate what you told us and what you've recounted to us today. And thanks also to Gareth and to George for being here as well. Thank you guys so much. As I say, round about 5 o'clock next week, Frank Griffith will be back, and I'll be here too for the Uptown Lockdown. So here is not Uptown Lockdown, but Downtown Uproar. Nearly.
Cootie Williams and his little jam band within the Duke's organization get off with Downtown Uproar. That was Jam Up.